people who often like to have hours-long conversations, how do you manage to talk so long without running out of things to say, and doesn't it make you tired to talk for such a long time? Well, it depends on the other person. If they give you really short answers and don't engage much, I run out of things to talk about really fast. But if the other person continues the conversation, before we know it, a few hours have passed. It's invigorating, if not dehydrating, to vibe with someone and swap stories and experiences with them for hours on end. Exactly, it takes two. Sometimes you're compatible with someone in that way, sometimes you aren't, sometimes you think you aren't, and then end up getting in the groove and talking for hours. My best friend and I talk for about 3 hours a day, sometimes 5 hours, sometimes a few times a day. We never run out of stuff to talk about, we're completely compatible. I know there's no one else I could do that with. I like to go for a walk with my wife. We go for like 5-6 hours and discuss the shit out of everything. With most other people you can't do that, but when you know someone and both of you share this ability to discuss abstract ideas just as focused as tomorrow's lunch, hours just go by. Edit, to make it clear, we don't walk 6 hours every day. But whenever we get a chance to walk for hours, we take a day off, arrange a babysitter, and just head out the door. I suppose with my husband it's the same. We are together all day and go everywhere together. We are constantly talking most of it. With some downtime. I generally just don't know when to shut TF up. I generally don't know how to get the other person to shut up, or otherwise end the conversation. What'd make a great team? Boundaries. I have a friend I really enjoy talking to, but any time we talk it's 1 to 2 hours guaranteed. So I make sure I have absolutely nothing to go to, or I say right at the start of the call, hey, I've got this thing I'm doing at X time, so I'll have to go then. The difference between saying no and having boundaries is awe-inspiring to the time I had none. I'm generally introverted, but if you get me with the right people, I can easily talk for hours. I'll share a story of the best Valentine's Day I ever had. My plans kind of fell through. My roommates, who were and still are together, didn't have anything planned for Valentine's Day, they have their own thing. So we all ended up getting drunk together. Well, my homie started going on about Warhammer 40k, which I had only a vague knowledge of at the time. He proceeded to spend 3 hours explaining various things to me and looking up stuff. I couldn't help but admire his passion, and I got into the lore myself. But we spent the entire night jumping from conversation to conversation about various genres, until we both passed out on the couch. That was some fun times. With the right person, when you have a connection, sometimes conversation is practically effortless. There is a natural flow to conversation. Especially after you've known the person a while. I am an introvert, so it does usually make me tired to talk for a long time, yes. But there are a few people who have somehow managed to get into my inner introvert circle, and talking to them doesn't tire me. Oh man. Before I moved cities, there was this person I chatted for years online. Well, the week before I moved I had nothing to do, so we talked on the phone. First time. And it was great. Something like 18 hours? I used all the cordless phones in the house. And then dragged the corded phone to my room. Talked about everything, read passages from books we liked, and shared thoughts about everything. It was great. And then I moved to new city, new job, had to make new friends, and we lost touch. She came to visit me once like 10 plus years ago, but I hadn't, so it was a bit awkward. But fun times. Still my record for longest call. Just go with the flow. It helps if the other person does the same, of course. Actively listen and respond to what the person is saying. Don't save up things to say and say them when the other person is done talking. This is key. Just go with the flow. A lot of people don't have the flow. Like, almost every conversation seems unnatural and straining. I think you're spot on about the actively listening part though. If you make it your mission to find out what excites the other person, asking questions about their answers so they tell more and more, that's how you make a conversation go on, and the other person feels truly listened to and appreciated. Long conversations don't work like small talk, where you pick a sort of general, safe topic, and both people take short turns swapping personal information and generalities. Long conversations work more like a discussion-based college class. You spend less time talking about yourself and more time talking about, like, how one cartoonist compares to a different cartoonist, or how different fiber arts work, or social norms in Renaissance Venice. Basically, it's more analytical and you're usually learning something. Also, don't just sit still. Go for a walk with the person. Or if you're talking on the phone, do chores while you talk. It helps keep you engaged and alert. I second this about going for a walk. Something about the movement, oxygen to the brain, and being in nature, if possible, really gets the conversation going. Walking talks are also great for resolving conflict, probably for the same reasons, but also because walking side by side feels less confrontational than facing one another. When my grandmother and I lived on opposite coasts, 2,000 plus miles apart, I'd go for a walk down to the 711 and back and talk to her the entire time. She'd always joke that I never bought her a coffee. I loved those walks, talking to her while walking under a mile of cherry trees. Springtime was best because of the cherry blossoms. I miss it out there, and I miss those conversations. That woman could talk for days about absolutely nothing if you let her. We're in the same county now, 10 miles apart, but my grandfather has late-stage dementia, so she doesn't have the time or energy to talk as often. I also do much more done around the house when I do talk to her. Lol. You should buy her a coffee. Me and my ex, we just clicked. We used to have 8+ hour video calls daily, just constantly talking. It was honestly amazing. I haven't met anyone like her since. Feels bad. I had the same thing. Thankfully, with years of hard work, we are really good friends now. I firmly believe we have some kind of deep connection, but we're never meant to be together romantically. I like long conversations because there is so much to talk about in this world. Talk about what you like, dislike, what you're for and what you're against, what you find bland, and what you're passionate about. Talk about how something made you feel, versus something that you learned through adversity, or a failure you made that has given you perspective. It's hard to have long conversations with people who give one-word responses. I don't force anything. If they don't want to talk, then it's alright. There is no such thing as awkward silence. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. And then when I find someone whose hobbies are the same as mine, the conversation is just smooth. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. Best thing I've learned recently. I'm a chatterbox, and I know a little bit about a lot of things, so I can always carry a conversation in some topic. It's also a form of socialization. I grew up in a society where talking was the heart of the evening. You don't go to dinner with your friends to have dinner. You go to talk, and the food is there to give you something to do while you converse. It's also quite stimulating and invigorating when you run into someone else who shares similar interests. One of my best friends would spend literally hours, I'm talking 3+, with me, just talking about different movies, scenes we enjoyed, shows, stories, etc. For the record, 80% of the time we're literally talking about things we've both seen, read. Yet we can still kill that many hours together talking about them. It reinforces and forges bonds between people. Edit. Thank you, kind internet stranger. You sound lovely. I really like people like you. Fellow chatterbox. You too. Us chatterbox have to stick together. I go off on tangents all over the place, and so do the people I'm talking to. A lot of times it's like, what was I talking about? How did I get on the subject of my mom's car being in the shop? This is with friends and closer acquaintances, not with strangers. I am only capable of holding long conversations. He can't do small talk. On one hand, I am just not interested in small talk, so I try my best to avoid it. On the other hand, if it actually happens, it gets really weird very fast. I have a couple of topics that are very interesting to me, and I spent a lot of time thinking about them, so if they come up in a conversation, I can easily talk about them for hours and hours. I once had a 16-hour-long conversation with a friend. I was at his place, and we talked for about 9 hours that day until it got late, so I went home and slept, and after I woke up I immediately went to his place again to finish the conversation, talking for another 7 hours. This happened right after we shared a psychedelic experience. Both of us had a lot of mental progress that day. I learned a lot about my personality and behavior, and he ultimately stopped smoking and realized a bunch of other bad habits he worked on quitting. Of course, this is an extreme case, but I would honestly love to do that with more people. Conversation should be fluid and never just cover one topic. The universe is infinite, and therefore a conversation could go on forever. Functional social skills. I feel this can't be emphasized enough. Socializing is a skill set, combining active listening, posture, tone, knowing one's audience, and being informed and confident enough to contribute to conversations with asides, jokes, references, and memes. It takes practice. So call your mother and get some practice in. Totally true. I was painfully shy for a while. I became a bartender and put myself in uncomfortable situations because I wanted to build social skills. It worked.